Welcome back to another episode of Creature Madness. And this time around, your host is me, Gus, from Askewed Reviews. Now, if you're not aware of what Creature Madness is, this was actually a creation by my friend Matthew over at Horror Madness. He decided to have a few of his friends come and join him in a bit of a movie club where each week we all watch the same creature feature film, and then each of us does our own review on that movie. Now, along with myself and Matthew, the other members of this club are Bambi, Amariah, Ashley, Jen, Karen, and Ryan. And it was actually Ryan's turn to choose the movie that we all watched. And he chose the 1993 film Ticks, directed by Tony Randall. If you haven't seen this one before, it's definitely a fun, very campy monster movie slash creature feature from the early 90s. So let me tell you more about the concept for this film. We have a pair of social workers, Charles and Holly, who are doing a wilderness retreat in California for a bunch of troubled teens. Now, it never really goes over in the film what the plan is or what they're trying to do to help the teens out by going into the woods, but I guess it's more of just being out in nature and touching grass, something like that. The film starts off with us meeting two of our main character troubled teens. The first one is Tyler, played by Seth Green, who is dealing with some form of anxiety or panic attacks. And then the second is Panic, also known as Daryl, played by Alfonso Ribeiro. Now, he is supposed to be a street thug type character, but because it is Alfonso, I'm sorry to say this, and it's not just because he played Carlton, it really felt more like a gangbanger you'd see in like an after school special. So it didn't really fully come across, but he still does a good job. Pretty soon afterwards, we meet the other troubled teens, which are Dee Dee, Rome, Kelly, and Melissa. And Melissa just so happens to be the daughter of Charles. So it's not really said whether or not she's also a troubled teen or if she's there more as kind of like a helper. So our group of teens and their chaperones head off into the California wilderness as they're going to spend some time in nature. In another area of the forest, we meet a character who is growing his own wacky tobacco. But to do so, he adds a little something extra, which is a type of steroid that is helping the plants grow faster. Unbeknownst to him, there is a byproduct that's leaking from this, and it ends up covering some eggs of some ticks. This, of course, now causes these ticks to become massive and very bloodthirsty. Another unfortunate effect of these steroids seems to cause the ticks to be able to reproduce much faster. So now these little critters are all over the forest. Now you'd think that that would be enough of a problem for our campers, but we add in another part of this equation, which are two criminals, Jerry and Sir, that are very violent and willing to do whatever it takes to be able to get themselves out of this forest. So, will our troubled teens make it out of this alive? The only way you'll find out is by watching this movie for yourselves. So, at least my opinion of this film is that it's fun and entertaining, but not that great of a movie. There's not much in the way of story, and unfortunately, there's almost too many side stories going on with each of the characters, even though none of them really go that in depth, but it just feels like there's so much going on and yet not enough. There are some good moments when it comes to the acting, but there's also a lot of rough ones as well. There's also some great familiar faces in this film. Obviously, as I mentioned, you have Seth Green and Alfonso Ribeiro, but you've also got Clint Howard, Rance Howard, and Peter Scolari, a few other people that are recognizable from a few other things, but probably those are the ones you would recognize the most. Probably my favorite thing about this film is going to be the practical effects. I really like the way that the ticks looked and how they moved. I also like the gross undulating of the egg sacs. So that was some pretty cool stuff that they had in this. So for me on my scale, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5, but it was very close to being a 2 out of 5. And if you'd like to check it out for yourselves, it's currently streaming for free on Prime. Now, as a quick spoiler warning, this is the part in Creature Madness where I go a little bit more in depth about the creature that appears in the film. So if you haven't seen this before, feel free to go watch that and come back to this. Otherwise, you can stick around if you just want stuff ruined for you, or if you just have seen it already. So let's talk about the ticks. Obviously, due to those weird steroids, they cause them to become much, much larger, as most of them seem to be about the size of like a hand. They also seem to be stronger, faster, and smarter than regular ticks. Now, normally you would obviously have to worry about a tick's bite in general, but these ones even add another layer where due to the combination of the drug slash steroids, they also cause massive hallucinations. So you have a really bad trip if these things end up biting you. I also can't forget to talk about this thing, this mega tick of sorts, which they don't really fully ever explain whether or not this was something that just was incubating in a body or if the person literally mutated into a giant tick. But either way, this thing's freaking crazy. Now, as for their weakness, just like regular ticks, they have an issue with fire. However, in this version, if you get fire just close enough, they'll just pop and explode from it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Creature Madness. And if you'd like to see what everyone else did for their review on this film, all you have to do is look up the hashtag Creature Madness.